Welcome everyone to Mail Fuzz TV. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 6, Episode 10. It is called Chain of Command, Part 1. So, full spoilers for the episode. This is an episode where Picard is taken off the Enterprise. He's set on a secret mission, so they actually transfer command to another captain who the crew don't like very much. Notably, he's played by Ronnie Cox, this Captain Jellico, who most people probably know from RoboCop. But Picard has Worf and Crusher on this little mission with him, and it's top secret. They're not allowed to tell anyone what they're doing, and this just causes further frustrations. But the biggest revelation in this episode, it turns out that apparently Troi has just been bending the rules the entire time by not wearing a uniform.
I'm not surprised by this. Seems like exactly what she should do.
I really burst out laughing when Jellico's just like, "Hey, I'd like some,
professionalism."
Yeah, professionalism on the bridge. You should wear a standard uniform." And I'm like, "Wait, was she supposed to be wearing a uniform this whole time?" And Picard was just kind of letting it slide because she's special. Like, what?
Pretty much.
I did notice though when she did show up in uniform later in the episode, she didn't have the newer version. She had like the old onesie.
Yeah. They didn't want to make her a whole new costume.
It was a one piece. I wonder if it's because she's in the medical colors. I wonder if they didn't have lots of spares of like the new version of that because there's tons of reds and golds walking around like all the time, right? So they probably have tons and tons of those. Whereas it's really just Crusher out of the main cast that has the blue green one. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Probably is just that, yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder that's why. Maybe if they're going to keep her in this after this, maybe they'll make her a proper one. But
I'm pretty sure it's only going to be for the next episode.
No, I think I heard she's in. I think season 7 she's in proper uniform.
Really?
I feel like I heard that. So I didn't realize it was going to come up in plot like this. I thought she was just going to switch for some reason. I wasn't expecting her to be grilled out by the new captain and be like, "Hey, what's this unprofessional?" I mean, typically she does wear a onesie anyway. Like, it's more of a baggy onesie, but she does tend to wear like a one piece.
She does, yeah.
It's not a suit. It's just not the right word, but jumpsuit.
Kind of a suit still.
It's
in the name.
It's a very 80s looking thing. I know we're not in the 80s anymore with the time this season was happening, but it's still a very 80s looking.
It was designed in the 80s, and
yes.
It shows.
So everyone else got an update in season 3 when they were just about going to the 90s. They got something a bit sleeker, and she still got her 80s outfit on. But yes, so obviously this one ends on a cliffhanger because it is a part 1. And we get a lot more Cardassian stuff in this, a lot more of what their demeanor's like, a bit more of the lore, and obviously we were kind of being not cynical. This is perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with this, but we were saying that it's very poignant and very timely that they're doing this reintroduction to the Cardassians right before the new show launches, which we just know from general knowledge is going to feature a lot of Cardassian stuff down the line.
But I also wouldn't be surprised if that was kind of how they were marketing it as well, like in the run-up to that show, as if they kind of played into that angle.
I suspect they might have done, or at the very least they knew internally that they were setting up stuff.
100% knew internally if they were doing this now, yeah.
So, yeah, what did you think of this one, though? Did you like it?
I did. I think it's pretty good. I think it's very much part 1 of a 2 parts. There's not really any resolution of anything to speak of yet, and that could definitely impact my enjoyment of the story overall. But right now, I'm enjoying it with some caveats of how they resolve things aside, such as the where it goes with Picard, like that being very elaborate. I want a good explanation for it.
Yeah. I mean, the big revelation towards the end that you're referring to is that the Cardassians actually, this was like a trap to lure in Picard. So they talk about this weapon, a metagene bomb. Was that what they called it? Not metagene. So it was something like that. But it's basically like this weapon of mass destruction that's really it's like a virus that's released into the air of a planet. It'll kill all the living beings on the planet, and then it'll actually just sort of dissipate after about a couple of weeks, maybe a month or something like that said. And the idea being that you don't actually destroy any buildings or equipment, so whoever's like conquering the planet can just go in and take all of their technology and everything they've got. It'll all be fine. It'll not be damaged in any way. And
it's like super banned under the new
because it's horrific.
Geneva Convention.
Yeah, it's horrific. So it's hard, and they even point out that even the Romulans, who are like our arch nemesis in this current time period, obey this rule, because even they're like, yeah, this is.
Yeah, it's one of those. Well, once one starts using it, everyone starts using it, and all of a sudden, no one's left. It's very clearly the nuclear weapons of its day.
It's funny though, because I was thinking why Picard, and then Picard actually explains it to the other two when he finally is able to tell them what the mission is when they're on the shuttle. I was like, okay, so there's a reason for this. It's because he actually, he's obviously a high-ranking trusted officer, which is an important part of it as well, but it's also that he has a history dealing with this specific type of thing. And that's why, so that's part of the trap. They knew that he had a history with this, so it's like, okay, he's who they'll pick. So it's like, okay. The twist that it's a trap I think is interesting. I think potentially it will feel a little convoluted, like how they were able to like make it work trap wise. What's more interesting to me is why the Cardassians want Picard, and I think as long as that's interesting, I think I'll be okay with it regardless.
No, I agree. That's kind of what I was getting at. Like, yeah, it's pretty a little convoluted to go, oh, it was only Picard they picked, but sure, whatever, I can go with that as long as the reason in the script as to why Picard specifically is good enough. I can kind of roll with it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of excited for that. We see them training in the holodeck, running through the cave systems, and they think they're going to go find a secret lab that's developing this weapon, but it's just like a little computer that's sending out a signal to mimic the signal that would be sent out if they were making this stuff. And it's like, oh, it's a trap, shit. So they try to fight it the way out. The other two get out, but Picard's left behind. And it's a fun enough little sequence. It kind of, I will say the cave system set is one of the more like kind of throwback feeling locations that we've had. It feels a bit original seriesy because it's this fake cave. Whereas this show tries its best to like use outdoor locations and stuff to make things feel a bit more alive, or it'll be, like, whereas when I think of indoor fake rocks and stuff, like that's a lot more original series.
It is, but by design of what this plot is, it kind of has to be, right? There's not really any way around that.
Oh yeah. I'm not really complaining as such. It's just it is there. It's interesting though, because obviously Next Gen by and large has more mature plot lines than the original series did, and
this included.
This included, yeah, and even just like the drama on the ship, because it's one thing where are the crew being unreasonable, and it's not even it's not like they're rebelling. It's not like they're saying no, we're not doing that, sir. They're getting on with things. They're complaining a little bit behind his back, but that's not really that weird in terms of a boss. Like
they're doing like Riker is like not changing the shift patterns. Going, oh, well, we think it would be better this way. And he's used to his captain kind of taking his advice. But he did also kind of just disobey the order and use his own prerogative, right?
Well, I mean, I think if you look at the specific wording and the way he says it, it's not like he's saying we're not doing it. He's saying that there's a bit of a transition because you've expected this, because he wants to shift from a 3-shift pattern to a 4-shift pattern somewhere on the ship. And, Riker's saying there's a bit of a transition period to go to that because, like, this is what they're geared up for. Whereas he's expected to already be done, and for the 4th, like, team to be going on shift soon. And so he keeps saying like, I want this done now, and I want this done. You've got X hours, and Geordie's wishing he took Scotty's advice and overshot the estimate because he suddenly found himself with 2 days to do this thing where he has to like reconfigure.
Because he lost the beard, isn't it?
Yeah, he did lose the beard. What the hell, Geordie? Like you got us all hyped up for Geordie with a beard.
Yeah, he made a whole big thing about it last episode, and now it's just gone.
Was there like another poker game? Did Beverly strip you of your beard?
Yeah. Well, no, because the others have their beard still. So unless it was a one-on-one thing.
I mean, yeah, it may have been a one-on-one. Maybe you know, maybe they opted out. They said, "No, we're not taking that bet." You know, we were just we're in it for the chips and nothing else. But Geordie's like, "No, I'm confident. I've got a good hand. I'm taking that bet." And
See, the thing is, because he wasn't as attached to his beard yet, it's like, if he loses it, it's not a big deal. It's fine. Whereas the others are like, no, this matters more right now.
Yeah, it's notable when even Data's sort of giving this little bit of side eye when like Jellico's making these demands and going a bit further.
It is very conflicted because he's like, yeah, no, this is all possible to do. And Dave's like, he's not actually asking anything out of any. You know, he's not demanding the impossible at any stage, right?
He's not demanding the possible, but I think that what's really notable here, and you know, Jellico probably likes Data because he is kind of backing up what he's saying in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. But it is notable that Geordie immediately points out that, yeah, it's possible if no one takes any time off for 2 straight days and everyone works around the clock.
Yeah, which is a lot to ask. But in Jellico's, like, his position is, hey, we might be about to, enter a war footing. We need to be prepared. So I don't think he's coming from a place of malice either.
No, necessarily. That's the thing. I think it's easy to side with the crew in all this, because he inherently is supposed to feel like a bit more of a dick compared to Picard. And there's even that moment where he chews out Riker in front of Picard, and Picard just is like, oh, it's a bit awkward here, and I don't know if I agree with what he's doing, and so on and so on. So it's. I think ultimately by the end of this story, we're going to understand him better, and we're going to think he's all right. In fact, honestly, dare I say, in the same episode, she finally wears the goddamn uniform. Troi has maybe the best use of her ability that we may have seen in this show. So they're doing this bluffing game with the Cardassian they're going to negotiate with, and they go to meet up with this guy, and
the same one we've seen before, right?
I think so, yeah. And he keeps him waiting. Jellico keeps him waiting in the meeting room, and then he eventually goes in. He's kind of hot headed, and then as soon as he comes out, he's like, "Okay, that went well. Yeah, you two." Give him like a couple of minutes to stew, then go in and pretend this, and then say, okay, well, conceding you can have a couple of secondaries with you as well, blah blah blah. And when he walks off, Riker's like, well, I'll say this, he's very sure of himself, and Troi goes, no, he isn't. Do you know what? That is probably the best use of her ability, because it was like, don't get me wrong.
Because we also assumed he was sure of himself.
Yeah, because he feels like he should. And don't get me wrong. I don't think it would have shocked me if you found out afterwards that he's kind of almost overcompensating and he's trying to put on a strong, brave front, and he's that makes sense.
It's clear, it's telling us, no, this is him putting on this act, but it's what he thinks is the right thing to do, and this is his plan. He's just not confident in it.
Using Troi here to reveal that it's the opposite of what it appears, because so often she just tells us what is blatantly obvious with the characters, that I was like, you know what, that was actually exactly how you should use her ability if you're going to. That right there.
Yeah.
That worked.
It's only taken them, 5.5 seasons?
Oh, we have to actually, the Cardassian at the end, who, Picard's taken to, did you recognize the actor?
I did not, under the 6 inches of prosthetics.
I knew who it was as soon as he said, as soon as I heard his voice, and then I could see it through the makeup. This is David Warner, who you might know from the Supergirl movie, you might know from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, you might know him, in fact, you should know him from both Star Trek V and Star Trek 6. This is his third character, and also third race of character in Star Trek.
Well, I'm sorry for not recognizing people under 6 inches of prosthetics.
That I have noticed. He was a human in 5, he was a Klingon in 6, and now he's a Cardassian. He was also in season 1 of Babylon 5 as well. Also human, which is relevant because he could have been an alien in that show.
He could have been, yeah.
But he wasn't. He's one of those guys. He pops up all over the place. And this is the third, at least the third time I've noticed him in Trek. He's old enough that he could have been in the original, and he was so young that I didn't recognize him. So I don't want to say it's definitely only his third, but it's the third one that I've noticed. So
let's say third for now.
Yeah. I mean, Star Trek 5 was 89, 6 was 91, and then this is 93, 94? 93.
94, yeah.
I think it ends in 94, so this is probably 90. That's maybe the end of 92, actually. If this
Maybe
is
92, yeah,
if
this-
this is right before Christmas,
Yeah.
if that's what the break's going to be, yeah, maybe the end of 92. Regardless, they're all very close together, is what I'm trying to say.
They are, yeah.
So he's got a similar voice, similar look, outside of the obvious, alien makeup.
Yeah.
But yes, David Warner. Pleasure to see him. He's one of those guys that I can recognize. It's the same on Babylon 5 just recently. The actor who plays Ethan Rain on the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer showed up as a Minbari, and I'm like, I can hear the voice, I can see him. Or even when Shakar from B5 popped up in Next Gen as a Romulan, I think it was. I was like, yeah, I recognize him. I can hear the voice. Yeah.
I remember you saying
that was a couple of seasons ago, yeah. So I don't know. So yeah, we got a guy from RoboCop, and we got David Warner, who's just. You would think he was one of the Warner brothers, the way he pops up and everything, but he's not. I mean, he may have a brother, and they're technically Warner brothers, but you know what I mean. Not the Warner brothers.
Warner brothers. You can be a Warner brother, but you'll never be the Warner brother.
Well, technically, even the Warner brothers are both a Warner brother.
Yes.
Neither one's the Warner brother because there's two of them.
That's true.
There might even be three. I don't know how many there were.
Well, I was going to say, are we sure? There's at least two of them.
There's at least two. Could be three.
There's five. Who knows?
It could be five. I'd say likelihood is it's two or three.
I would also agree. But I'm just saying, we do not know without research that this easily Googleable fact.
Well. But yes, so there's a bunch of things on the ship. The new captain, like, at first it feels like it's just Riker that he's been really sort of like shitty with, and like giving all these extra tasks to, and not accepting any advice. Which it's not unreasonable for the first officer to expect to be heard by the captain and like discuss things.
Yeah, I think he is definitely extra harsh on Riker. He clearly doesn't like Riker very much on a personal level compared to the rest of the staff, where it's more just they don't know how I'm working yet.
But then of course he has the encounter with Geordi where he gives him all this extra stuff to do that's like oh no, we need to like rejig the entire system so that we have 2% more power in case we get into combat. And then Troi tries to speak to him and explain, there's a bit of a transition, the crew aren't really used to you yet. And to be fair, his response of, well, I think we may be getting into a war, so I don't really have time. But at the same time, as reasonable as that is to say, he then follows up with, I'm going to leave it to you to make sure this transition goes easily and quickly. That's your job. I'm like, wait, what? How could she do that?
She can sense the crew's feelings, so she should know that she, who needs talking to.
They all need talking to.
They do.
That's the problem.
So she'll have a very busy couple of days.
Yes, but they've all got work they need to do. No minutes to spare.
Well, she can go around and pull some party poppers and throw some confetti and tell them to cheer up.
That's what's going to fix it, is it?
Hey, he said fix the morale situation. He didn't say get what doesn't fix morale like party poppers.
Yeah. So it was interesting that Ensign Ro's not in this episode because she has popped up this season.
Yeah, she has. Yeah.
So it is a little strange that they didn't choose to have her be around for the story with the.
I guess they just have a lot to do, right?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
A lot of plot threads juggling already.
Because it could be interesting if she actually is the one who sides with the new captain, because she takes this all seriously. Because this is the Cardassians, so like, no, listen to the captain. Let's all be hard asses. Yeah,
it could have been interesting. I would have been definitely in keeping with her.
Yeah, and she's a bit of a hard ass and herself in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
she's just not in charge of everyone else, so it doesn't become a problem
as much as she wishes.
Yes, I mean, yeah, she would delightfully. Maybe unless she's still a kid, maybe she never actually went back.
We haven't seen her since that.
Little Ensign Ro just
chilling in 10-4, just like hiding behind the bar.
Little Ensign Ro just comes storming in and starts yelling at Cardassians and like, what is this child Bajoran talking to me for? Have her be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see the comedy in that, and maybe it's a good job they haven't gone that route.
It's probably not suitable for this particular episode, I will say. Yeah, I remember we mentioned the Admiral because it's Roy Cox just doesn't appear at the start of the episode. It's actually an Admiral who comes in first and sort of like says, "Oh, I'm here to relieve you of your duty, Picard." That's kind of her stinger at the end, the cold open, and then she like gives the other heads of the crew like the info that they're going to have a new captain for a bit, and Riker's a bit miffed because she does make it sound like it is temporary, that it's not like oh, this is like we're shifting to a new captain permanently. I mean, he does have that moment later where he says it's a bit weird they've done the ceremony where they transfer.
Yeah, there's a couple of moments later like that, and then there's a bit. I think it's when Picard and the new captain are talking, and they talk about hey, I'll help you beat the odds, and that you come back, and it sounds an awful lot like Picard is aware he signed up for what is very likely a suicide mission.
Yeah, so it's like, if you make it out alive, maybe it is temporary, but if you don't, then,
Mine now.
Yeah. So, it's interesting, but Riker does sort of voices, like, concern of this and says, well, if it's just a temporary negotiation, like, I've taken command of the Enterprise many a time, when Picard's out for vacation or something, and I think she's right when she says, no, this needs someone who's dealt with Cardassians before, and you don't have that experience. It's a perfectly reasonable.
I think it's a twofold thing. One, that's the excuse, which is probably also true. But then the second part is, we don't know if Picard's actually coming back. This might be it. So we need. They're essentially lining up their actual next captain as well.
Yeah, and when Picard tries to speak to him about, at least giving Riker some slack and actually, like, listening to him because he's very good at what he does. Jellico kind of throws it in his face a little bit, says, with all due respect, this is my ship now.
Because I don't have time to give him a chance.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, because we've spent so much time with these characters, and because they do function as such a well-oiled machine, and there's such a camaraderie between them, that when you throw someone in there who's not going to respect that and starts just kind of taking this harsh stance with all of them, it is frustrating because you're like, well, no, part of the reason why they always seem to save the day is because they do understand each other and because they do listen to each other. Especially since Wesley left as well, like.
Oh yeah, that helped.
That was a bit touch and go when he was around, but since he's gone, it's been smooth sailing.
Yeah, so, relatively speaking.
Yeah. I don't think Ronnie Cox is a good actor for this role, though.
I do as well. And, these scenes, I think it makes that Troi moment more important as well, because all this, it comes off, it's my ship now, this is what we're doing. He does come off across like this is his plan, he's so confident in what he's doing. But Troi telling us that he's not confident does that. Maybe he's a bit insecure, maybe he's kind of terrified of what he's doing here, and this is all just, an act to just try and get through it.
Yeah, even from the opening, like his opening scenes where he comes on board and he's finishing the sentences because he's like studied the ship so much that he knows where everything is. He's like, I think Riker's trying to say where his quarters are, and he like finishes he's like, oh yeah, that deck, yeah, I'm like,
yeah, that one I was like, yeah, well that one's obvious because it was like room like 753 or something like that.
Oh sure.
And he goes, oh, deck 7. It's like,
but that was,
that makes sense.
That's
how every hotel works.
That was the last one in like
it was
a string of things, yeah. So it does kind of feel like he's coming in just like prepared for this to turn into a war, which I think we've seen before in Trek as well, is that when you have the officers who come in and expect combat and see it as the only likely outcome, like I don't know if we're necessarily going to go down this path of he's looking for a fight. I don't know if I'm getting that vibe from him, but we've seen those types of stories in the past where you get the officer comes in and they just immediately assume that there's no other option and they're going to have to end up fighting. Whereas often there'll be a diplomatic solution that the other characters will come up with by the end.
Yeah, I think it could go down that route still, but I don't get that vibe from him. I get more the idea that he is genuinely terrified of war and is just like, actually being really prepared in case it does happen, because he thinks it's likely and he's just, over preparing for it, but he's not. I don't think he's actively wanting it either.
Yeah,
but his actions like this might accidentally cause it anyway.
I mean, he is playing some rough games. You know, the negotiation tactics very much doing a lot of bluffing and try to show strength in a way that maybe isn't going to help the. Because I mean, that's the thing, you know, they kind of imply they know about Picard's mission and the negotiation, and then that's when it sort of reveals the trap on the other side of the plot.
Yeah.
And it all goes there. So, obviously, Picard wants to know why he's been taken, what they want with him, and David Warner's just like, no, you will answer our questions, or you will die. Dun dun dun. To be continued.
Yeah, and that's the bit where I hope it has a satisfying answer for us. Like, why Picard?
I have no reason to suspect it won't at this point.
I don't either, but that's like my only potential concern as to how it could fall apart, as to my enjoyment overall. It kind of hinges on that being good enough right now, at least.
Well, actually, what intrigued me a little bit, it may not even be a big deal when we get to the part 2, but at the end of this part, and the like, they stop getting readings on the ship of this, you know, weapon that they thought was being made. They don't know it's a fake yet. Jellico goes into his room and talks to the Admiral over the comms, and says, you know, whether the mission was a success or not, one way or another, it stopped transmitting. So they might have succeeded. Like, they may have, so this looks almost like they might have just like solved, you know, won the mission. But I do wonder if like them not knowing that Picard and Co are in danger, like, is that going to play into the plot next time? Are Worf and Crusher going to have to try and send out a signal to say, "Hey, Mayday, we're in trouble here"?
Yeah, I suspect that part is likely. As far as the Enterprise and, you know, the Admiral are concerned right now, mission success, and the crew, if they don't contact, were a casualty of the mission, right? And that was, it seems like that was kind of the expectation going in from all parties. Maybe not Crusher and Worf so much, but, you know, everyone else. So it kind of seems to be aware of that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just what they'll assume.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if Data or someone on the ship pulls out some reason why something's not right. Maybe
they did say they're monitoring transmissions. Like they're going to keep radio silence, but they are going to monitor for anything that the ground crew send back to the Enterprise. So it is possible that Worf and Crusher could send a signal still.
Hey, for all we know, maybe the Cardassians will tell them they've got them because they want to gloat about it. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that could be part of their negotiations. Be like, hey, you know, you're not coming here in good faith.
Yeah. So there's a lot of potential for the next part.
Yeah.
I think more than anything, though, because we've only really had the one story about the Cardassians before, and that was early last season.
Yes.
Yeah, it was early. Yeah, it was right at the start of last season, more or less. It felt like a big deal seeing them again and getting all this talk about them again and kind of building them up as this, like, oh, they might even be worse than the Romulans. Like, that was kind of what they were shooting for here. And it's very neat, especially with the hindsight of knowing they're doing this because they're going to be like a big force on this other show. So it's a very smart way. It's not backdoor piloting anything necessarily, but it's definitely using the connected world to set something up with a bit of weight before the show even starts.
Yeah, it's definitely, even if they weren't directly marketing yet as, hey, you know, this is leading in, I think by the end, after this episode airs, they definitely would have been, in the sense of, hey, you enjoyed all this stuff, find out more where this goes on this new show, right? I definitely would see them playing that on the marketing angle.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect Deep Space Nine will probably reference the events of this two-parter in some small way at some point.
I would have thought so.
Maybe even right in the first episode. It depends if it's relevant immediately, but
hard to say. Yeah, I think we'll have a clearer idea of that by the end of the next episode.
Yeah, because even though we know Cardassians are going to play a big part of Deep Space Nine, it's entirely possible they settle into the show for a bit before they even bring them up. So I have no idea.
It is, or there could actually be some direct link to whatever happens in this next episode.
Yeah. All the other thing I would say is Crusher puts on the charms to basically trick the Ferengi. They go to see a Ferengi to sneak them into the Cardassian planet.
Yeah.
And it's not their home planet, but it's just whatever they're.
It's in Cardassian space, though.
And the Ferengi's not having it, so but of course they're very susceptible to well,
I think Ferengi would call it feminine wiles.
yes. It was mostly just amusing because of how easy it was for her to do this, but also just watching Picard and Worf just sort of like stand there awkwardly. They're clearly both uncomfortable, and this is weird. It was the way she sort of like ran her finger down his ear. And it's just like, okay, you really played up the charm.
Seemed to work though.
Yeah. Honestly, Chris has had a few good moments the last couple of episodes.
Yeah, this kind of last few episodes is probably the best she's been in the whole show.
I think, and obviously Wesley's been gone for a while, but I do wonder if like unshackling her from Wesley is something that's helped. Just let her be a fun character on her own, because she was fun in the time loop episode last season. She had a really good inclusion in that.
Yeah, okay, I remember that one.
Yeah, so there you go. That is Chain of Command Part 1. So we have Chain of Command Part 2 obviously next. So I won't read what the description is because it would feel more spoilery. Yeah. So, but it is worth mentioning that after that is when Next Generation goes on a break. And when I say that, I mean it originally went on a break, and the first batch of episodes of Deep Space Nine aired before Next Gen came back after 7 or 8 episodes, something like that. So what I'm saying is that after the next episode of Next Generation, we'll be starting Deep Space Nine, and we'll be having a batch of Deep Space Nine, because what we're going to do is we're going to follow the actual air date order to a fault, meaning that it won't neatly be... Because we're hoping, once they're both simultaneously going, we are hoping to do 2 episodes a week. But it won't necessarily be one of each a week, because if they aired in an order where you may get two episodes of Deep Space Nine one week and then 2 episodes of Next Gen the following week, or so on and so on.
It'll all even out eventually.
Yeah, and it'll be similar once it's Deep Space Nine and Voyager overlapping. But at least right now, that is the plan. So look forward to Deep Space Nine starting in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, let us know what you think of Chain of Command Part 1 in the comments. You can like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the content financially, you can hit the super thanks button, or of course you can go over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv and support us over there for as little as $1 per month and help keep all the content coming. And of course you get early access to the Trek reviews by 6 days, the $5 tier. So go and have a look and see if you're interested. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek. And somewhere out there, Wesley Crusher is watching Keeping Up with the Cardassians.